Our Warriors hashtag is community creates change. And Seak Smith is doing exactly this. She is truly one of the biggest warriors we know. And Seek is the founder of the Mom Army and the Dad Army. And I want to quote you, Seek, because I think this is an important quote that kind of rounds up um, what you're feeling, what you're saying. You say, as the attacks on our kids became more and more frequent, I felt the intense call to bring together fierce warriors that have inspired me with their boldness. Mom Army was created to activate and mobilize fierce protectors of children. I am so honored and proud to lock arms with so many warriors on this mission to stop the war on children. That is a quote from you, Seek Smith. Please follow and support Seek and the Mom Army at mom-army.com. We're going to have all of this information in the body of the video. Don't worry, anybody. There's going to be a lot of goodies in the video that you can click on. You can help. You can donate. You can volunteer. You can discuss, share the information, and we're going to do it. Let's do it. Seek, I haven't spoken to you in about a year because I went back and looked. I spoke to you a year ago, October. So welcome back to the Warriors.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you for always being so supportive, and your unwavering support is what fuels this kind of fight. We need to be leaning on each other to amplify each other's messages, and you do that so well. And you truly, truly appreciate your support.
Thank you. But right back at you is what I have to say, because you are really, no pun intended, when I say boots on the ground, you are really out there with the take actions, with promoting actual things that need to be done, as opposed to, I think you'll agree with me, Seek, but everybody talks, right?
Yeah.
Everything's so bad, so horrible. Like, we already know all this, right? So it's time to get up and do something. And that's what you're so good at doing. I want to jump into, there's so many things to talk to you about. I want to start with, though, tell us something about you. We haven't spoken in about a year. Anything you want about you. You're a mom, you're married, you run the house, you run Mom Army, you got Dad Army, you got so much going on. You're traveling all the time. Give us a little nugget about you that we don't know.
Well, I will share this because this has just been coming up a lot, lately for me. But I love people. I love serving. I love helping. My husband joking, he says, you're called for this. It took me a while to get to the place of accepting that this is my calling. I just felt like, oh, I'm just being a good person. I'm just doing, what I should be doing. But I realized that I've been gifted, the ability to really listen and to counsel people. I'm not a certified therapist. I'm not any of that. But because Mom Army is a survival-led organization, I jokingly said the other, it was like putting out the Batman signal for Mom Army, and all the warriors are just, they see it and they're coming. And so it's been a beautiful journey the last 2 years of starting Mom Army and just locking arms with, I kid you not, if we ever go to war, like, this is the group I want to fight with, because they are fierce. They are convicted about protecting children. They will go to the ends of the earth. This is the hill they will die on. And so for me, is building these one-on-one relationships with the people in my group across the country has been so fulfilling. It fills my heart with so much gratitude and so much joy to be able to create a community where people feel seen, heard, safe, supported. Some of my moms will say, I wish there was a Mom Army when I was a little girl, when I was being abused. I wish that there was a group of people who was fighting so hard for me, because no one around me was protecting me or fighting for me. And so that's what we look to create with Mom Army. We want to be the beacon of light for children that are out there, that are looking for hope. That there is this warrior group of women and men across the country, that this is our sole mission, is to safeguard them.
That is such a beautiful, geez, I'm tearing up a little bit. It's so beautiful, Seek. It really is. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I know. There's been some really heavy moments, because when you think about how a child's life is destroyed from this type of abuse and from trafficking, they don't see a future beyond what has happened to them. And we as a society need to create the environment and need to nurture the next generation of of life after this type of abuse, that you can still be restored, you can still be redeemed, you can still you know, be revived, right? And I know so many survivors who are now living in their purpose. You know, they realize like that happened to me for a reason. It sounds awful to say that something like that happened for a reason, but when you
Mhm.
talk to survivors, they will tell you that they could now use their testimony, they can use what happened to them to inspire others, to save other lives, you know, and to give others hope. So that's what keeps me going, because I'm not a survivor myself, but I feel very privileged that I've been able to create a community and a platform that supports survivors in the most
I mean,
beautiful ways, that has changed my life. I mean, completely changed my life and the trajectory of my life.
I mean, God bless you. I can feel your passion. I'm not a survivor either of any of
Mhm.
this. I just began this because I couldn't believe, see, this was
Yeah,
going on. I didn't know. I
same.
grew up very well. I had a good childhood. I had great parents. I didn't we knew this was going on, right? But, like, we
Mhm.
didn't know this was going on. At least I
Right.
didn't know to the extent and how it's escalating now and being normalized. So, really, when I say God bless you, I mean that. Let's get into what is your mission statement for the mom army and the dad army? Because they're
Mhm.
connected. They go together hand in hand. What's your mission?
Our mission is to end, you know, and eradicate child sex trafficking and the exploitation of children. It's a lofty mission, and a lot of organizations is aiming for that to be the case. I mean, think about it, right? I said yesterday, I said, you know, we're abolitionists. We want to end this scourge. We don't want to tinkle on the edges. We don't want to change a few laws here and there. We want this to be eliminated. You know, and there was a time in the world where slavery was normal. I mean, slavery, you know, of exploitation of human, you know, labor, and all the abuses that come with that and the violence that came with that. And then at some point, you know, people fought, you know, you had abolitionists that fought to try and end that. We need to do the same with child sex trafficking. And that's really the ultimate goal. Whether or not it happens in our lifetime, Lynn, I don't know, obviously, but we should all be working towards abolishing child sex trafficking.
I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable that, and the studies all show, we have more slavery today in the United States, which is human trafficking, than any
Hmm.
other time in our history. That is
Yeah,
unacceptable, right? It is
yeah.
unacceptable. Let's talk about, you just did this vigil across America for
Hmm.
not only, another thing I'm screaming about, all of these unaccompanied minors that have come through our open borders. They're all gone. I keep asking, where are they? What's happening to them? These children, no matter what you think about the border, these are children, these are minors, right? And then all of our kids that nobody's talking about, missing, exploited. Tell us all about the vigil, why you did this, how was it? And we've got to do more of them across
Yeah.
America. We have to keep raising this awareness.
Yeah. So last year in October, we did Stop the War on Children rally. So we tend to do these nationwide campaigns. The first year, a few months into starting Mom Army, we had the Cancel Balenciaga rally. We did that in
Oh,
20
yeah.
cities. And then last year, we did Stop the War on Children rally, and that was in 35 cities. So I started getting messages a couple months ago, and people who were part of that rally last year said, "Hey, we're coming up on a year. Are we doing another rally?" And I was kind of humming and hawing. I was just like, it's an election year. We're all so stretched thin. Do we really want to organize another nationwide rally? But I know that our team, I mean, we can literally come up with an idea and we can mobilize people very, very quickly. So I know it's not that big of a challenge, but doing another protest and a rally just didn't feel right. And we've been screaming about, just like you, the missing unaccompanied migrant children's at the border. We're just like, how is it that this administration can have a policy that is basically handing children over to traffickers and to be exploited? I mean, just serving them
Hard.
on a silver platter. And we were just so outraged about it. And Jess, who's part of our team here in Phoenix with me, thought maybe if we did something like a candlelight vigil with that, you know, and that was it. It was like the light bulb went on. I'm like, that feels right. That feels right because it's so somber. It's so horrific what is going on at the border and in our and within our borders. It's hundreds of thousands. Who know? I mean, the number is like we just don't know. It's underreported. Why this is the I always say this is the real pandemic. How is this not front page news all the time, just like the
Thank you.
countdown with COVID numbers? Why are we not talking about the sheer numbers? And so that's really the catalyst for why we decided to do the candlelight vigil. So quickly, like we always do, we message everybody in our chat and we said, who wants to host a vigil in their city? So of course, very quickly, a bunch of people said, I'll do one. And we just started organizing and decided, if you can have speakers, bring the attention to the forefront. And we know one vigil isn't going to get anyone's attention. Well, if we do 20 vigils simultaneously across the country, and the power of prayer and the power of meditating and coming together, to revere these children, um, maybe that can bring some attention. And it has, so this was Wednesday night. We just had this candlelight vigil. I did ours at the Phoenix, at the Arizona State Capitol. We had groups across the country, Pasadena City Hall. We just allow people to do it at their church, in front of, in a public park, wherever it felt, that it was fitting. San Diego, Nashville did one, Dallas, Salt Lake City had a beautiful one. Salt Lake City had Phil Lyman, who's running for governor of Utah. We endorsed him. So, we also endorse candidates because we know how important it is in the policy-making realm of how do you protect children? How do you safeguard children? And our strategy is to work with good people who are holding office to push forward our agenda in protecting children. So we love, I don't want protecting children to be political, but sadly, Lynn, you and I know it's gotten so hyper political. But we understand the need to work with people who can move the needle when it comes to policies for protecting children. But it was beautiful. I mean, I'm still getting messages and calls in our chat, in our Telegram chat, for organizing the vigil. We're getting videos and photos, so we're getting
Good.
ready to put out the recap of all the different cities and stuff. So, and it was, the goal of it was to, one, bring awareness to people who aren't paying attention, to gather in community and to pray for these children, and then to get people to move, get people to take action. What are the next steps? What do we do collectively, individually, to really start, fighting this issue? We can't let up. Evil doesn't take a day off, and we shouldn't take a day off either.
No, but as you're relaying all this information, so good, you'll share all that, and then we at the
Mhm.
Warriors can share all that. We've got to do this in Times Square. We've got to have a
Oh, that would
vigil.
be amazing.
I'm signing up for it. I don't know. I don't wanna wait
Why don't
another
we do
year
that? Let's put
because
together a
I'm
massive Times Square thing, and
I'm
I would
telling you.
fly out for that. Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's not that hard to put it together, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I think we have to do it, and we cannot wait another year.
Mhm.
So we'll talk about that, but that
Yeah.
has to be done. New York. New York's like California. I mean, tough
Mhm.
places, but there are good people
Yeah.
doing there's some good legislation happening. We have to be the ones to amplify it. That's what you're doing. That's what I'm doing. We're
Mhm.
trying to do. Um, but Seek, when did kids become, the product? I th this is we try you mentioned, like, we try not to be political. How can one not, though? I'm very careful about that, right? Because 'Cause I'm like, these are human rights abuses, belongs
Mhm.
to no political party, but when we have open borders and we have a US government, this is me saying this, working with these criminal cartels hand in hand, walking all people, NGOs making millions upon
Mhm.
millions, right, to process, and kids are disappearing because law enforcement we work with said it's in excess of 500,000 that we know about. Who
Yeah.
knows? It could be a million kids.
Right.
We have to, I'm glad you pointed that work, chip away at legislation, chip
Mhm.
away, put things into law. Give us a couple like stats I want to share with our warriors audience of why this is so important. It's because everything's escalating, right?
Yeah.
So give us just a few stats, and then we're going to get into like, what do you think are the biggest impediments right now? Like I just said, when did kids become the product?
Mhm.
Because it seems like there's no
Well,
stopping it, yet you're stopping it. You did the vigil. I'm sure here's the way we look at it. If one person a take action comes out of anything and it's positive and moves forward, like, we're winners. Like, we
Yes.
have to look at it this way. So
Yes.
tell us a little bit about the landscape right now, that concerns you, the impediments and things like that.
Well, here's the thing, right? W- if you look at the destruction of society, right, we all feel it. Whatever we know something's not right, especially in the last 4 years, even you can even go back 8 years. But definitely the last 4 years, it's been
Yes.
permeating all around us and we all feel it. There's this thickness of heaviness that's going on. But what I want to point out to people is everything's interconnected. Everything, especially when
Mhm.
it comes to the children's issue, they are not different issues that are separated. If you look at abortion, the dehumanization of the unborn, and how flippant that issue is, and how you know it's with the valuing of children, right? Are we a society that value the preciousness of children and the innocence of children? I would have to say no. I would have to say what
No.
we're seeing all around us is not that. We are not a society that elevates children. So with that, what you have to see in the family court system, we deal with parents who are losing custody of their children to the gender ideology issue. If you look at, the mutilation and sterilization of children, you look at abortion, you look at trafficking, you look at sexual abuse, you look at, the foster care system. They're all connected because there is no money in safeguarding children. There's a ton of money to be made with traumatizing and exploiting children. That's it. So
Yeah,
until we
that's
come
it,
to
that's
terms
it.
with that, yeah, yeah,
You know what? It's funny, Seek, because not that long ago, um, some law enforcement that we work with, he said to me, it never occurred to me before, and he said to me, "Lynn, if you solve problems, it makes no money."
yeah,
And I'm like, "Oh, it's
mhm,
exactly right." It comes down to when people say, I'm sure they ask you, "Why is this happening? Why don't people stop it?" It's making a lot of people a lot
a
of
lot of money,
money, whether it's the
yes,
internet, it's trafficking in real time, it's all this predation. Tell us about, before we went on, you were telling me some exciting updates
mhm,
about this facility. Like, what do you want to share about that? You
yeah,
know what I'm talking about. I want to leave it
yeah.
to you to tell your story a little bit. I don't want to misspeak, but I'm so excited about what you were telling me.
Yeah. So when we started Mom Army, we said we don't want to be a bunch of keyboard warriors just complaining about this enormous problem that's going on. We don't want people to feel hopeless. We want to be the example of these are different ways you can take action. So my moms are active all over the country, whether they're at the state capitol lobbying, supporting bills, fighting against bills, working with legislators at the state level, at the school board level. We have, parents that go into school board meetings and speak even though their children are homeschool. What people have to understand, it doesn't have to affect you for you to want to bring change in that area. So people always say, well, I would get criticized, why are you speaking at this school board meeting? Your children doesn't even go to this school. Well, it's my duty as a tax-paying citizen to speak up for these children.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter if it doesn't directly impact me. So we do that. We do these nationwide campaigns. We have support groups. We share resources. We share knowledge. We train people for all sorts of ways to take action. So on that front, um, we're always looking to launch initiatives that really can bring people together and bring change. So before I go to the sanctuary, we launched a project called the Hope Box. So think about it as a care package for children who have disclosed sexual abuse or are trafficked. What we found that from a lot of our survivor moms is that sometimes it takes decades before they confront what has happened to them and to even start the healing. That sometimes can be too late for some people. It's never too late, but it can be if you're waiting, if it's 30 years later that you're finally starting your healing process. So we created this box inspired by a lot of our survivor moms for, for 18 and under, of a box of tools. It's like a toolkit. Think about it, for healing modalities, for little exercises, for affirmations, and there's items for touch and feel. And so we ask all of our survivors to contribute. What would you need? as a 9-year old, that was sexually abused. And so this beautiful box came together, and we're still fundraising and working on that to create the prototype. And we want that to be provided to centers that service this population of children that are being abused. Police departments, maybe they have the box in their cruiser, so when they're going on these calls
Mhm.
where a child is reporting sexual abuse, that they can give something that is not just a teddy bear that's in there, but a little sheet on how to, breath work, a little music playlist,
Good.
all sorts of things to get them on their journey of healing. So that's that one component of what we're working on. Um, and and then we thankfully, by a series of introductions and connections, we are connected to Pastor Dave Bryan, who is the pastor at the Glad Tidings Church of Glad Tidings in Live Oak, California, which is Northern California, about an hour north of Sacramento. He's been a fierce warrior, and I mean, the most outspoken pastor I've ever seen when it comes to the issue of child trafficking. I mean, this church and his congregation they walk the walk, they talk the talk.
Wow.
They are working to acquire an abandoned low security women's prison that is just 5 miles away from the church, to convert and restore it into a children's sanctuary called the Peace of Heaven. So peace, like, like the peace sign, so PEACE, Peace of Heaven. Um, it's 10 acres, and the vision is to basically create heaven on earth for children, which is a entirely wraparound service from start to finish, and as long as the child needs it into their adult life. Skills training, health, mental health, art therapy, equine therapy. I mean, anything and everything you can think of to help a victimized children get on the path of healing is going to be provided for free, and it can house maybe up to 1,000 children
Wow.
on this site. Yeah.
Gonna take a lot
And
of money. We need money for
it
this.
we need
Take a
a
lot of
lot
money.
of money for it. So it's $4 million to acquire the property. We've been fundraising. We just had 2 weeks ago, we did a live stream telethon. Collectively, the church hosted this, and my Sacramento chapter leader, Sabrina, was there all day. And we all chimed in online. I jumped on for 10 minutes to talk about what we do and to help raise the money. By the end of the night, after 9 or 10 hours, we collectively raised $838,000 for the center. Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah,
Excellent. Almost 25%. Excellent.
yeah. And
Okay,
we've
well,
got
we got
pledges. There are foundations that are pledging. There's a couple that pledged $500,000. If we can raise 500, they will match 500,000. Prior to the event, I think the Give Send Go already raised about 315,000, and we are just active. We need to raise this money very, very quickly. We're hoping to get the 4 million by the end of this month, because the landowner wants to close escrow pretty soon. So we're on a time crunch.
okay, just, we'll have all of this in the body of the videos so all the warriors can come along and look at it, find out how they can donate, help, also with the hope boxes. We wanna get all this underway, and, I did watch this interview I saw with you and Sabrina, with the pastor,
Mhm.
and he brought up a really good point, which I've experienced, I told you, here in New York City, of, Christian, pastors, or I've even had a few nuns, like, everybody should be on board with protecting children, and seemingly a lot of them are not. Can you tell me, because I can't figure out why not? Why do
I
you
think
think
there's
that
a couple
is?
of things at play here, right? I think when churches, especially because they're under the 501(c)(3) status, there's this misunderstanding that you can't get political, you could lose your exempt
Oh,
status, right? So there's the financial component of this, and I think people misunderstand. So there's that. Then it's such a sticky, very controversial topic. There are people that still think trafficking is a conspiracy theory. I mean, literally, people don't think that this is happening. When I have
yeah.
people in my group, and I mean, for the candlelight vigil, some of the testimonies from survivors at the different candlelight vigil are so heartbreaking. And here's the thing, people misunderstand. It's not some white van that pulls up and kidnaps a child. That happens. That's a small percentage. The majority of trafficking is happening in our schools. It's happening in our churches. It's happening at, community centers. I mean, Ashley Nadine, who's a survivor, shared her testimony in Pasadena. She was a 14-year-old cheerleader, straight A student. upper middle class family, wonderful parents. Her parents are still married to this day. She went to a party, and from there, someone started grooming her, and then eventually started trafficking her at 14. And then at my vigil, my friend Sherry Lopez, who is the author of a book called Pearl at the Mailbox, she was
Oh, yes.
trafficked.
Pearl
Yes,
at the mailbox. Yeah, I know about that.
yes.
Yeah.
Sari's a good friend, and she's now working on federal legislation at
Yeah.
the Capitol, at the nation's capital, with Tim Tebow and his organization. But her testimony was she was a good student. She went home. She was home, upper middle class family, same thing, but was being trafficked by a Romeo boyfriend, a boy in
Yeah.
school, and was trafficking her to his father's pedophile ring every weekend during her whole entire time in high school. She was still going to school and being trafficked on the weekends. When we can start to understand the nefarious nature of how our children are being trafficked in America specifically, and how it's happening right underneath our nose, and the things we need to equip parents with on how to protect their children, we are that's the only way we're going to fix this. And so for people to say it's a conspiracy theory, it is such an insult to trafficking victims that are living this nightmare every day, right in our backyards. And
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
want people to understand, like, the severity of it and the nature of it and the rampantness of it. This is happening all over our country.
Yeah, I call it, it's become normalized. People do not realize that it happens. It's mostly somebody, a child or a teen, a person knows. It's
Hmm.
a member of their family. We don't talk about that enough, the familial trafficking.
Yeah.
It's somebody in their family circle, their community, as you pointed out. It's not that white van that we always are
Hmm.
hearing about. Because we know here in New York, we have stats that tell us over 64% it's familial trafficking
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
victims. And as far as Sherry, I have her lined up. We've been talking. We were at a Senate roundtable not long ago with Tim Tebow in
Hmm.
Washington, and she approached me, and we exchanged information. And I'm lining her up to come on the Warriors with her story
Amazing.
to raise
Hmm.
awareness. So it's a small community of what I call true warriors.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of groups and organizations, but you got to do the work. It's not a 9 to 5 job. It goes on and
Mhm.
on and on. And I love your passion and some of the other wonderful people I've been meeting. You pointed out what you need from the public. Obviously, we've got to work on these hope boxes. We got to work on. I'm calling it like the sanctuary. Like you're calling it a sanctuary. I'm envisioning in my own mind like a ranch, like this
Yeah.
healing
Yep.
ranch.
It is.
With
Yeah.
all these animals and like
Hmm.
art, like an art studio, a dance
Yep.
studio, tech stuff
Gardening.
with
Yep.
music. Gardening's a wonderful therapeutic tool. We do a lot of that because we teach people that's a form of therapy. And
Hmm.
also we get people to open up while they're painting, or doing that. They start talking about the survivors, their journey and sharing. Tell us what now you've got a full plate here. I was going to say, tell us what's next for you at the mom and dad army, but it seems like this is it right now. We got to get this sanctuary up
Yeah.
and running. That's
Yeah,
your main.
that's our next focus for now. But obviously with the election, we have long-term strategies. In order for us to really make headways, we need to have good people in these positions. So we're actually training up some of our members to run for office for the next election cycle.
Ooh,
Yeah, so
perfect.
that's some exciting things that's going on too, because that's it's one thing to go up to the Capitol and try and lobby these legislators, but if we have our people there, we know some big things can be done. And so that's a long-term strategy for Mom and Dad Army. But yeah, there's so many amazing things happening. I always say to people, like, we all can do something, so collectively it can really make an impact. So find that, whatever that is, whatever you're being called to. We all have a gift. I have people in my group who are filmmakers and they help produce content for us. We have people in our group who are interior designers. So going to help with the center. We're doing a lifetime partnership with the pastor. He wants us to basically have a place on the property where he thinks that one of the most
Perfect.
important components of the healing center is for survivors to work with the children. And so a lot of our moms are really excited about that, and impacting in that way. but yeah, I mean, so that's happening. What else? We're just trying to get through this election, but I think next year we also have our gala. We had our first gala a couple months ago. So next year we're planning a 3-day summit gala, which I
Oh,
would love
good.
for you to come
I'm
speak at
I'm
and be a
already
part
signing
of.
up for it. I'm signing up
Yes.
for it. It's
And the goal is to bring all the fierce warriors together so that we can almost like a mastermind. If you think about it, right? There's all these think tanks that are out there for different policies and different groups. But what if all the fierce warriors and different organizations come together? And I know there are groups that are already doing that. But I really want to see survivors come together and advocates for survivors and victims come together. From the policy side to the media side, that's a big missing piece, right? The media, we don't have the media on our side when it comes to this. You know, a lot of times they think it's a conspiracy theory. They don't want to cover this. But a few media people cover our vigil. Oakland had a couple of local news cover that one. A couple other locations had coverage. But I really want to see this coalition of media people, warriors, survivors, advocates, victims advocates, lawmakers, grant writers. A lot of nonprofits struggle, smaller ones that we work with, to stay afloat because they just don't have the funding like the big multi-million dollar organizations. So how do we support those that are doing really, really good work with an all volunteer team and everyone's, doing what they can? How could we help support them financially? So I want to bring this collection of people together to really amplify everything everyone's doing, but also to support each other financially and getting the message out. And so yeah, so we have a big vision for next year's summit, but we hope to get a lot of people involved in that one.
And you will, because that is the correct way to do it. In my
Yeah.
playbook, exactly what you're doing, Seek. And I love that you put it's about the survivor voice, listening to survivors. You and me could talk till we're blue in the face to a child, but they resonate when somebody else is that
Yeah.
survivor. That's just the reality of what it is. Promise me as we finish up that we will speak more often. You'll come on the
Yes.
Warriors more. We have to amplify. We have to really get everybody revved up. I know people want to help. People are always asking me, how can we help more? Even they can look, as you pointed out, if you have $1, if you've got a bunch of socks because you have a sock company, if you have a company and want to partner up, right, and do some like matching
Mhm.
funds or just, donate some money. And even if, because I've had people say to me, I don't have money, I don't have anything, you can share our interview, you can share the information, and that is good enough because
Yes.
this is an American crisis. What's going on with our children? What's going on with these open borders? What's going on with the public not getting the correct information? So I can't thank you enough, Seek Smith, for creating the mom and dad army, your dedication, your commitment. I feel your passion like right through the computer screen. It is exactly what is needed. Please sign us on. You truly are the warrior. I will have everything will be in the body of the website so everybody can sign on, click on, donate, volunteer, whatever. We got to build this. And you got to come to Times Square in New York. We've got to throw an overall, we'll get our warriors from Connecticut, New Jersey. There's a lot of them we work with, Long Island. Come and have this massive presence. And I promise you, I will get you a lot of media to come to that to that
Yeah.
vigil. It is so necessary. So everybody, mom-army.com. Again, everything will be in the body of the video. Thank you for taking the time and joining me. I know how incredibly busy you are, but this is one of the most important conversations. Thank you, Seek. I hope we speak again soon. I know we will.
Yes, we will. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you for everything you're doing, and I appreciate the platform to share.
Thanks, Seek.